Hi, everyone. This is Ed K. Smith, the co-host of The Asset Show, here with the other fabulous co-host, Mr. Rob K. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Excellent. Excellent, as always. We have a special guest on the show today, Mr. Guy Dickinson, who is the founder and CEO of Betacarbon at betacarbon.com to talk about carbon credits, carbon farming, carbon tokens, and carbon credits and all those things I mentioned before on the blockchain and the combination of them. And I'm a complete novice on this subject, and Guy is the expert. So we thought we'd have someone on to talk about that in relationship to how it is classified as an asset, and a very different asset at that. So Guy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's I always love helping to educate, and if I feel like I'm digressing a bit, just bring me back. Obviously, I've lived and breathed this journey for a long time, and it's very easy for me to go down rabbit holes you didn't ask me to go down. So you pull me back when you need, and I'll give you the best version of me that I can.
No, that's fantastic. Rob and I love rabbit holes, don't we, mate?
We do. Every day we jump down domain name and crypto rabbit holes.
Yeah, and we always tie a rope to our waist, so one of us can at least pull each other back up. But you know, we're still here kicking, so that's good. So I've seen a lot of stuff about yourself and Betacarbon. I'm going to say Betacarbon now because I'm just going to forget that it's beta pronunciation. I'm just going to say beta. So fine. Beta. Okay. Yeah. Potato. Okay, cool. And some congratulations are in order here because you have won a lot of awards recently. I'm just looking off your LinkedIn profile here, Guy. The Finnies 2022 winner, People's Choice, Emerging FinTech of the Year from Finder, winner of Green Rising Star of the Year, winner of Green Innovation of the Year 2022, and winner of Investment Innovation of the Year 2022. You've racked up some impressive awards there, so congratulations on those.
Thank you.
It's a subject matter that I think a lot of people may have heard about but don't know a lot about. I'm one of those, and I'm finding it fascinating. So Rob has written down some questions. I've got some questions. They're probably similar. But let's do a short backstory on who is Guy. What was Guy doing preceding Betacarbon? How did you get into the carbon credit space, mate? Give us a bit of a few minutes on that, please.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm not a young man. I'm 48, and I've got close to 29 years of trading experience in investment banks. So I was, previous to this role, I was the treasurer at HSBC, and I ran the global markets business, also ran their custodial business for Australia and New Zealand, which at the time of leaving was, I think, 1.5 trillion under custody. So it was a big number. It was a big job. Big. But I was in Bowral for most of COVID, lucky enough to have a little place down there, moved the family down there when I got, wind of what was happening. I thought, well, let's depopulate a bit and go down there. And that gave me time to step back from my day-to-day, intensity of being a treasurer and, signing off reports and constantly being under the pump from, my 150 people that reported to me. And it was, I guess that allowed me to free myself up. Now, previous to that, the bank had done some work in carbon credits. We had a lot of thought leadership in the bank globally around this space, which gave me accelerated access to information. I think probably as your listeners go down a rabbit hole, which they inevitably will, they'll find it hard to find out a lot about this or find a source of truth. And that's because, like anything, there is a range of actors. And whether it's equity markets or foreign exchange markets or carbon markets, there is a range of actors. And I think when you're talking about something which frankly, you can't necessarily see because it's a certificate against carbon, which you don't feel, it can start becoming quite removed. But actually, Betacarbon's kind of trying to bring tangibility back to it. So my background was markets. I wanted to get the bank trading in Australian carbon credits because we had clients asking us lots of questions. I didn't have the answers, and that was not satisfactory for me. So I put my hand up to accelerate that journey for the bank. And then it morphed into something which needed to be more social. And that's when it pushed into me wanting to democratize the asset class. Digital assets were the best way to do it. And I guess we all had a lot of time to think about who we were prior to COVID, through COVID, and coming out the other end of it. And that's probably what gave me the little shot of bravery I needed to step away from what was a fantastic role at HSBC. You know, it was a long exit. You know, put my notice in many months prior to me leaving. That was probably the hardest bit. I was chomping at the bit to get involved. Luckily, my co-founder, or my son, Jules, he took the lead on it, and he worked through that 6 months journey. You know, gave up uni for 6 months. He's back there now. He's spent the last year there, but he's still involved in the business. So I had that as well, which was awesome and challenging all at the same time. So that's kind of what got us to here. You know, there was a series of events, both personal and more esoteric, out there in the community. Grassroots were going on. It was starting to feel like this was real. This is not like 2010. You know, there's a new Labor government coming in. You could see that the Liberals are all at sea. You can still see it. They've got a huge sort of view around who they are. They're not sure, but the old guard's still calling the shots. And I think until they get their head around the fact that actually I would consider myself not an old guard, but I'm definitely squarely in the mix. And I think the biggest indicator for me was this year. My wife made me spend upwards of 10 hours on the election. Like, who are you choosing? You know, it was like this. Who are you choosing? And I hadn't had that. You know, my wife we'd just probably vote for what we usually vote for, and it was like there's no incumbency here. Let's just look at what's in front of us. And I know that my family wasn't alone in that. So that's why I think it's really different this time.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's a big step. A lot of people have that, what we classify as the golden handcuffs, when you're in a well-paid position that you've worked all your career life to get to, and then all of a sudden to stop doing that and put not everything at risk, but there's a risk involved in doing it. So first of all, well done.
Yeah, and do something that you love and you're really passionate about, rather than just take the money, so to speak. You know.
And I knew that if someone in my position found it hard to get involved in these markets, how could anyone else have a chance?
Yeah. Fair call. So Rob, kick off, mate. What have you got to ask Guy?
I'll break things down back to the basics. So obviously there's a lot of people, especially corporate people as well, that are into what they can do about climate change and global warming. If we take it, if people want to get involved in that, obviously they need to understand the basics, like what is a carbon credit and how has the Australian government placed a name on a carbon credit. So can we literally start from the beginning? Like, what is a carbon credit?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll keep it like really in terms of trees. No, that's the easiest way.
Okay.
So there's this. I'll go back even further. There's two things. There's a carbon allowance and there's a carbon credit. Now, they may sound the same thing to someone who's not in the market, but they're quite different. So a carbon allowance is when the government says, Ed, you're allowed to pollute 1 tonne this year. Off you go, right? That's an allowance. Mm-hmm. Where carbon credit is saying, Ed, if you want to pollute 1 tonne this year, you're going to need to plant some trees, right? So one's a made-up certificate. The other one's a certificate based on what you've done with the tree. So it's a nexus to the reality of dirt under your fingernails. That's what a carbon credit is. Whereas an allowance is a ability to pollute offered to you from the government. So Australia doesn't have allowances, it has credits. So already we're in a situation where people, when they look up carbon credits, they'll go straight to Europe because it's all Europe. Like Europe is big and 200 billion but it's all allowances. There's no real credits in that market. But you know what it does? It drives influence. It stops people polluting because They have a baseline. If they don't meet it, they've got to pay huge penalties.
Okay.
So that's an allowance. I'll go to credits. We'll talk about Australia.
So one's a carrot and one's a stick.
Correct, 100%.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a carbon credit is like, we know you're producing this amount of carbon, so you have to offset it. Is that what we're talking about here?
Correct. Yes, that's right. So I think what we're talking about here now is two different systems. So let's really get into what the Australian system is. It's a credit system. What that means is, how do you create a carbon credit? Now, there's about 30 different ways to create a carbon credit. They range from things like, if you change your bus from a diesel bus to a solar bus at the airport, you'll earn a carbon credit. If you plant a certain type of tree and you hold it up for a year, that's another methodology. Or for 100 years, that's another methodology. Then there's one where if you're a forestry plantation and you were going to cut it down in 7 years, and you put your hand up and you say, we're not going to cut it down for 25 years, you can earn a carbon credit that way. Then there's another one where if you were a farmer and you're allowed to fell your land, i.e. you can clear your land for agriculture, and you gave up that right, and it was clear that you actually own that right, it wasn't something that your mate gave to you, you can earn a carbon credit. So there's a combination of avoidance and removal. Avoidance is when it's kind of like the avoided deforestation. Removal is when you plant a tree and it's sucking it out of the air.
Yeah, okay.
So to make one carbon credit, you need about 20 trees in the ground for a year, right? Mature trees, not little saplings, mature trees, things that you wouldn't be able to wrap your arms around.
Yep.
And when you think about that, you think, God, one carbon credit in Australia is worth about $35 at the moment. Would you be able to plant, maintain 25 to 40 trees for $35 for a year? Absolutely not, right? So that's my first premise. You go, this is why I wanted to buy it. I went, well, I can't physically. How could I do that for $35?
Yeah.
And so that's what a carbon credit is. Like, let's think about it.
Okay.
25 trees in the ground for a year.
Wow. Yeah, that really breaks it down.
Yeah, how the heck could you do that for 25 trees for $35?
Yeah, but then you've got situations where people are buying carbon credits for $1.20. 1 tonne for $1.20, right? So then you go, how's that happening, right? So that's where there's this disconnect, and not the Australian market, that's in the international market. So that could be a solar project or a hydro project out of China. Maybe it's been going for 20 years. It's like, it needs to be new for it to be doing something different, right? So there's this concept of additionality. If what you're doing is not on top of what you'd already do, you shouldn't get paid a carbon credit. That's the basic concept of the Australian market. If what you're doing is additional, i.e. you're avoiding or you're removing, and you weren't going to do it without this incentive, then you don't earn it. If you're doing it because of that incentive, you earn it.
Okay.
So it's basically a reward system. People are getting rewarded, right, with carbon credit.
Correct. And then you've got, so if I talk about the Australian market specifically, I'll even talk about the carbon credits that sit behind the token, so that are notionally backing the token. So for every 1 tonne of Australian carbon credit units, which is called an ACCU, I'll refer to it as an ACCU now because we only have an hour. An ACCU has a range of pricing from $32 today up to $65, depending on how that carbon credit was created. Some of them have Indigenous benefits to them. Some of them have other sustainable development goals with them. So depending on what benefits it brings the community at large, or it brings biodiversity, or it brings new technologies to market, the market will price them differently. So behind the Australian carbon token, we have about 30 different projects that sit within it. Pricing goes from $32 up to $57. That's the range of credits that we sit. So what we've created in the token is effectively a notionally backed portfolio that represents the Australian market. So when someone types in ACCU, right, they'll go to this website probably called Jarden.
And that's spelt literally ACCU.
Yeah. So if you look up ACCU price, it'll take you to this website called Jarden. And if you go in there, on a good day, you'll see a price. On a bad day, you'll see nothing. And that's the extent of the opaqueness of the market. These guys are the best. These guys have the most transparency, and you'd be well pressed to go and find a price. I think if you go and look today, Rob, there's nothing there. That doesn't mean there's not a market going on the whole time. Like, I could ring up a few dealers now, find some carbon credits, make a price. But it's not like the market you'd expect in foreign exchange, which just does this all day, right? You've got liquidity all day, or an equity market that does this all day. And I knew I needed to create something that looked like that for people to understand it. It's a market you can buy and you can sell it back, as opposed to this concept of, if I buy a carbon offset, someone's going to charge me 700% margin and I don't know where it's going. That's unacceptable. It's not going to work.
No.
So really representing value for money was important. A good representation of the credits and giving people time to get on the journey is probably the most important thing. So I never wanted this to be a FOMO thing. I wanted this to be an organic growth thing. And, you've got situations where the big four banks are all putting measurement tools into your app, So when you go and check your monthly banking, 15 million Australians in 12 months' time are going to be told what their footprint is. Now, let's say 10% of them go, so what do I do with that? Well, you can eat a mushroom burger, you could do different things, or you could invest in the asset class, which is designed to bring your emissions down. And you don't need that many people to say yes to that to affect the price of the carbon credit.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, okay.
Small rabbit hole. I know I leaked.
No. It's a great rabbit hole, because this is sort of a similar scenario that we talk about with the Web3 crypto space. Is there needs to be less barriers for people to be able to access this. And in my mind, my simplistic mind, carbon trading, for want of a better term that we're talking about now, you should just be able to go on your phone on an app and go, I want to buy 20 carbon credits, or I want to sell 20 carbon credits. I mean, that's so simplistic in my mind. Is that a feasible thing? Is that what's trying to be done?
That's what I built with the exchange. So
that's what you've built.
You go in, you verify in 5 or 6 minutes. You can deposit money through Pay ID. You can go buy 1 kilogram, which costs 3.5 cents.
Yeah, okay. I'm not where you guys are yet. I'm still we can talk about investing, but in terms of
that's good.
So we started with a carbon credit. I've already got you to buy some. That's not my point. Let's wind it back.
I led that one. Okay.
Let's go back to the tree in the ground. I'll literally run you through.
Yes.
We don't mind jumping left and right.
You're a farmer. My name's Bob and I'm a farmer.
Well, can I interrupt here, Guy? Because I think I'm on your train right now. Like farmers and people that do produce the most carbon, and I'm not saying farmers do, but is this whole ACCU or ACCU, is this the incentive for them to offset their carbon emissions?
It's an incentive for them to change the way they farm.
Yeah, right. And that's why, I mean, we can talk about investing and why people want to buy and sell carbon credits, but a lot of people are going to want to know that it's being done for the right reasons. And this is the right reason, because it's causing people who produce the most carbon to offset that. And that's why this is actually one of those good people that are investing in carbon tokens can also feel good about themselves,
Well, yeah, and we've seen that we've sold $4 million worth of Australian carbon tokens, and we've had probably the biggest bear market in the last 11 years.
Yeah.
And we only saw, out of the $4 million worth of sales, we only had $150,000 worth of sales. Period. Right. So what that tells you is they're not saying I'll sell it and then I'll buy some Bitcoin. They're saying I'm not gonna sell it because when I hold this thing, I'm stopping someone using it to pollute in the future. That's what they're saying mentally.
Yeah, right. Okay.
They can't say that they're offset, but they don't care. They're like, good enough for me. If it goes back up, I'll sell it then.
Yeah, it's two-pronged effect, right? They're holding on to it for the reason you just said, but they're also holding on to it knowing it's a bear market. So what's going to happen in 2 years?
Well, the thing is, it's a non-correlated asset, right? So that's the other reason they hold it. It's got no correlation because it's not open. There's still only 65 odd people who trade these things. Now, I've got a couple of thousand customers, so I've opened it up from 65 to 2,000, right? But It's a synthetic version of it. It's not a pure carbon credit. It's backed by pure carbon credits, but the tokens are representative of 1 kilogram, i.e. for every ton of carbon credit, we make 1,000 tokens to bring the price down.
Yeah, wow.
I digressed again. I'm going back to the farmer, okay?
Well, okay, keep going then.
So it's good to get it going. So
yeah, go back to your whiteboard marker, farmer. Yeah,
I'm Bob. I'm a farmer. I've got 20,000 hectares and I've been running cattle on all 20,000 hectares. But the land is starting to get a bit manky. And I'm like, well, when it was $20 a ton to earn a carbon credit, but I could earn $22 doing cattle on the same land, not going to do it. Now that it's $35,
yep,
they're like, maybe I'll run 5,000 hectares less, right? So they start doing carbon on 5,000 of their 20. And now they're starting to earn some real money. And they're like, I'll make it 7 next year and I'll make it 10 the year after. They'll probably never go to 100 because they know that as the land use changes, the price of cattle is going to go up too.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a natural, like balancing effect. There's only so much dirt out there, which is why carbon credits coming purely from nature to solve this existential crisis isn't going to work. It's a really important part. It's a part of the mix, 40, 50%, but the technology's got to come to the party on the other 50, because for you and I to really get to what the government wants us to be carbon neutral, we've got to be about 90% more efficient than we are today. I don't know what you could do to be more efficient, but having a keep cup's not going to do it. That'll give you about 1%. Where's the other 80 coming? We've got a shitload of work to do here. This is not something which is just going to come along and a couple of trees in the ground is going to solve it, but it's a really important mix. And I think, frankly, people understand trees because they're tangible.
Yeah.
This is a bit like, if you don't talk about it in things you can understand. So I'll give you a really interesting thing. 1 kilogram of carbon is as big as one of those Swiss balls. So it's like, big. 1 kilogram, massive. So when you start thinking about what does carbon look like and you visualize it, there's a site called The Visual Capitalist. It's awesome. Like everything's in little balls, like buildings in balls, and it's carbon and what you do. And all of a sudden you start going, okay, I can make a difference. And that's kind of what this is, like to perceive that we can hope the other guy's going to do it and that's going to be enough. It's not, which is why I want this to be a mass introduction to the asset.
Like you said, instead of having a keep cup or instead of getting rid of plastic bags in shopping centres, you can make a bigger impact on climate change and global warming by investing in carbon credits. Is that true?
Well, it's a way, right? So let's look at that farmer. That farmer, before the price was $20 because no one was really interested in them, they were still doing more cattle. Now they've made more money to more trees because people are interested in these assets.
Yeah.
And there's an effect, right? So I'm going to give you a quick stat. Australia emits about 500 million tonnes per year. And that's without us sending coal. With coal, it's closer to 3 billion tonnes. Okay.
Jeez.
So it's a big, that's about 10% of the global output. So in terms of what we dig up and send overseas, we're massive. We're right up there with Saudi Arabia. If you take that back and you just do the government view of saying it's not the coal that's burnt in India, it only matters what we do on shore, it's 500 million tonnes. Now, we only create 17 million carbon credits every year.
Yeah.
That's like 4% of what we need to get to net zero.
Yeah.
That's
why 6 years to get down to that. It's not happening.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 2030 was what the goal period. The
43% by 2030, and that's massive.
Jeez,
that is huge.
Yeah, wow.
That's big. That's a big job.
You've got regulation pushing us into this asset class because the government on the hook now, but they want corporates to do the work. So for me, this is really a responsibility of medium-sized businesses getting on the journey, because actually the smallest businesses, and this is the best part, the smaller businesses, the users, the people who are on the street are actually the most willing, but they didn't have any access to this thing.
Yeah.
Which is nuts, right?
Yeah, good point. Again, the barrier to entry to get involved has been huge, which is why when I started reading about your stuff and the tokenization of it, I'm going, okay, this is getting to a point where just your average Joe Blow or Jane bloke and get involved and go, absolutely, I can. And it may just be a small part, but it's giving access to the average people. And then, like, I was watching a documentary. It was on ABC or something a little while back. This is probably 6 months ago. I saw this about a farmer was being interviewed, and he was saying basically what you were saying. He was making more money from his land from the carbon credits than he was from his cattle and sheep that he had on there.
Wow.
So that was, I thought,
that say that is balanced. It was a balanced portfolio.
Yes, exactly. So another thing that I've been looking at, because we're using trees as an example, what's the difference, or what's the distinction of soil carbon credits? What is a soil carbon credit?
So it's very high level. The more water and content of the soil, the more carbon it's retaining, right? So during a drought, let's say you're a farmer and you do soil carbon. Now, what soil carbon is you take a baseline measurement, you change the way you farm, and the soil captures more carbon because it's healthier. It's right. It's a thing, right? They'll do core sampling. It's all measured, which is great during La Nina.
Yeah. but when it's as dry as a drover's butt, exactly.
Now here's the thing.
Yeah, right.
We've modeled this, right? So everyone thinks, well, it's all going to be the computer's modeled that there's going to be ins and outs. And actually, you don't get credited in soil carbon until the periods happen. Whereas when it's a tree in a forest, you get front loaded to incentivize you to lock your land up for 25 years. Soil carbon's a bit more real time. It's a lot more measurement that goes on. A lot of satellite modeling. And the other thing you have to remember is if the project proponent, who is the farmer or whoever's managing that project, if they don't deliver on what was modeled and they've been paid for it, they have to make good on it.
Right. Okay.
That's a really important point. It's not like you're just free willy over here. You've got to come good.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's financial penalties, I'm assuming.
You've got to go buy an ACCU from somewhere else. That's
okay. So checks and balances are constantly in play. So Rob, we've covered some real basics. I feel like I could probably go to a university and lecture on the subject now. That Guy's made me so aware.
I'm probably feeling comfortable where we can figure out how we already feel good about carbon credits. Now we want to figure out how to make some money and invest in them, right? So is carbon a good asset class for investors as opposed to, other blockchain technology?
Well, I wouldn't call blockchain technology an asset class. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, if I think in terms of asset classes, you got fixed income, bonds, commodities, foreign exchange. They're your main ones, or equities. So if we went and looked at the correlation of voluntary carbon markets, which trade freely globally, there'd be higher correlations in that than there is in regulatory markets. And an example of that is the New Zealand carbon market's gone from $30 to $87 in the last 18 months.
Whoa.
So that's a pretty good result in what everyone else goes down 70%, right? So, and that's because the government has made a mission around carbon. Now, Australia is looking ahead. They've put a pretty ambitious target. Pole in the ground. They've said, this is what we're doing by 2030. Old Bowen's got to go up to Parliament every year and get a statement from the Climate Change Authority to make sure he's on track. He's going to, he's on the hook. This is not an insignificant thing that they did. And when you think about what that means, it means the government needs to solve how you and I pollute, be it through how we consume, be it through how corporates produce, be it through how energy is produced. They're kind of all we can do. That's it. So we can help people bring down our emissions, which is kind of needs to do 66% of the work in reality. We can't offset our way out of this, but we need offsets and the emissions to hit that target. Now, that's the rosiest scenario. So if I'll take it global for a second, right? We put 35 gigatons out a year, 35 gigatons of carbon. And we need to get that to 13 gigatons by 2050. Now, that's 66% of every emission when our population is going to go from 8 to 11 billion people. Okay. All right. Struggle. Now, guess what's going to make up the 13 billion? Carbon credits.
Yeah.
You know how many carbon credits are actually of any quality out there that really, it's not allowance, it's a credit, right? It's got to actually do the work on the upside.
Oh, yeah, wow.
That's actually worth, the whole carbon credit market's worth about $2 billion annually outside the compliance markets. It's tiny. Now, Australia has this unique ability to create carbon credits. It has the land, it has sun, it has all these salient qualities to actually move the needle globally on this stuff. Now, it's not going to do it just through trees. It's going to do it through technology. It's going to do through, direct air capture, all these things. And Australia's pretty good at technology. Now, I'm pretty pleased with a government that sees that, and I'm pleased with the pressure, because that pressure leads to action. And, we can sit there and say, we've done this since 2020. Come on, guys. You're trying to pull the wool because everyone was shut down for 2 years. Don't tell me you've done well.
Yeah.
How are you doing since 2019? Let's talk about that.
Where do you, in your opinion, where do you think Australia sits in this, in terms of global leadership on this subject? Are we?
Sounds like we're at the beginning, right?
It sounds like we're only just waking up to it.
I think we want to be a fast follower.
Okay.
So if we're a fast follower in terms of a line graph, we should be kind of going like this, and at one point towards 2030, right?
It's now. It's actually now. So, like, if you look across the ditch at New Zealand, their credits were $30 18 months ago.
Yeah, so they're starting to take off. So, in terms of investing, apart from feeling good that you're doing climate change and global warming, which we do need to do, there's a high probability that if you get in, pick your point where to get in, we could be at the beginning of this thing.
So, look, the democratization of anything has massive opportunities, right? So I'm going to go back to dirt again, like to 1999. A lot of people listening probably weren't even born, but 1999, the internet started opening up real estate. And if you were one of the early punters who figured that out, you were buying blocks of land in Tasmania for 60K and selling them for 120 without settling. Right? That's what we're talking about here. It's the wholesale transparency of a market which has been kept underground because it was convenient to keep it underground. You got the big polluters passing these things amongst one another.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is carbon's internet moment.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's
cool.
That's a big statement.
It makes sense too.
It does make sense. It does make sense. And I mean, there's still people arguing whether climate change is even a thing or not. You've still got that whole subject.
Most of my token holders don't believe in climate change. They just believe that everyone else does.
Interesting. Interesting.
Whether you're feeling good or whether you're investing to make money. I mean,
yeah. That's cool. So you've come along and you've set up Betacarbon, and you're setting up having these tokens on the blockchain. You've chosen Ethereum as your layer one platform to use, from what I've seen on your website, which is a very great website, by the way. I really like it. Yeah. So that's the blockchain layer one you're using is Ethereum. So what was the decision to tokenize the carbon credits through your system? What drove you down that path?
So my view is that I want this to be available at the checkout. I want people to round up into carbon tokens. I want people to get carbon tokens as rewards. I want this to be embedded in everyone's daily lives.
Wow.
Literally, you round up 50 cents, the same thing, but into carbon, right? And it's not throwing money away. It's not giving it to Oz Harvest, which is great, by the way, but no one ever clicks on it, right? So let's remind ourselves that we love thinking we're altruistic, but a lot of the time we're not. So let's just be honest about that. And I like the idea of investing in an asset class which isn't open yet. So for me, it was about getting it open. Now, if I can bring that into the layer of organizations, we saw so much movement 2021 of people trying to make crypto mainstream. I always took the view that it would go there, but I also took the view that whatever took it there had to have embedded value.
Of course.
And while you've got the big dog up there, which doesn't necessarily have embedded value, but it's got its own, it was the OG, that's a different thing, right? But if you're talking about an unbacked token that was, spun up by a couple of 16-year-olds, God knows what
utility behind it. See, your token already has utility behind it.
Correct.
That's pretty much the secret to the crypto and blockchain industry. All these air tokens that have got no utility behind them, people are buying and figuring out they're getting rugged down the track. The crypto industry will find that the only stuff that survives are blockchain tokens and crypto tokens with actual utility. And this, of course, has real utility.
Yeah, it does. And I think for me, when I think about why I used Ethereum, I knew it was moving proof of stake, right? So there was probably took them longer than we thought. We thought it was going to take them 3 months. Took them 9.
Didn't it?
So that cost us a bit in carbon, but Betacarbon's a carbon neutral platform. So we've fully offset all the Ethereum transactions that we did over that time.
Okay, clever.
We've used Australian carbon to do it. Used the most expensive carbon we could get. We didn't use $1 credits. There's other crypto exchanges out there who put on their website they bought 1 ton of carbon, and they're massive exchanges. I'm like, dudes, I'm a small business and I bought 150 tons of carbon. So how is buying 1 ton when you've got 300 employees doing more than
doing anything?
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. So I think when I think about this, I just want to be genuine to what I'm trying to put out there. That doesn't mean that Australian carbon's the best. It doesn't mean it's the worst. But you know what I like about it? It's issued by a government at arm's length. It's held in a government registry at arm's length. This is, even if I took the view, like people go, oh, what about the underlying assets? Where do they go? Well, carbon's a closed loop. You can't send it away. In Australia, it can only live in Australia in the government registry. So even if one of my employees, let's say it all went pear-shaped, found a way to move it from his account to that account, you'd ring up the regulator and go, can you just put it back in my account? Because they can't do anything with it. They can't leave. So there's this beautiful mechanism of custodianship that the government manages. And that's, I was a custodian for 1.6 trillion. I knew that this was a really salient point as we leaped into what were more and more dubious looking assets out there. Yeah. This is why I did it. I knew that this was my big differentiator. This grey hair is worth something. And for me, that was really what landed on why the Australian market's got such huge upside from it needs to create influence, it's too small. So another thing, I'll give you another, while it's coming in my head, the New Zealand market is as big in totality, the carbon market, as Australia's. New Zealand's it's like a state of Australia. Sorry, New Zealand. It's tiny. But at the end of the day, we need to get as big as that to have the same markets having on.
They are truly punching above their weight, which is impressive. So that's amazing. I think there's a lot of people who are probably going to be listening to this for the first time, who are, a lot of the things we're talking about, like several things we're talking about, is the first time they've even looked into it. And even like this combination, which to Rob and I makes obvious sense, blockchain, tokenization, carbon credits, it seems like it's a perfect marriage. And also it's with the things we've all seen happening with these exchanges folding FTX, etc.
Mostly due to the air tokens that they invented. They had utility behind them.
Yeah, and there was no regulation. There was zero regulation. So in terms of regulation, you're talking about the ACCU. That would be classified as a regulatory body, where the carbon.
So I'll break it down for you. So
okay, cool.
So the Australian carbon credit is a financial product. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Australian carbon token is not a financial product. And the reason that is the case is because you as the token holder can't come to me and go, I want that kilogram of carbon, right? It doesn't happen. But the carbon that is backing that token sits in a separate custodian, and Betacarbon can't do anything with it unless it's bought the token back from you.
Right. Okay. Yes.
So every carbon token at Betacarbon is backed.
100% backed, never more, never less.
Right. Critical.
A carbon credit by an ACCU, right?
Notionally backed in the project, right? So it sits in a separate thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that now we're talking. That's what you're meant to be using blockchain technology for and creating tokens for, real use case.
So our AFSL, we also have a license to issue derivatives using ERC 721s if we want. And part of the reason we did that is because we want corporates to be able to retire carbon. So if you're a wholesale customer under our license, you could bring me carbon tokens that you'd bought, and I will take those back, issue you with a derivative. And whenever you want to retire carbon for your entity, we can retire it in the proportion of the portfolio that sits behind it. So we've created a mechanism not only for asset price inclusion, but also the other thing a carbon credit is there to do is to retire it. And by retiring it, you are taking that permission to pollute away. It's gone. It's removed from a corporate. They're going to scurry around and find another one, right? Guess what that does? If you're removing supply, I don't have to be a genius to work out what happens to demand at that point.
Absolutely, yeah. Demand goes up, supply goes down, price goes up. Fantastic.
So at this point, everyone's wanting to just basically buy some.
Yeah.
How do regular people and say small businesses get involved? Like, is it technically hard or to buy them?
It's very easy. So if you want to buy the Australian carbon token, I built a platform so it's for any Luddite. You know, I wouldn't call myself a digital native, right? I've surrounded myself with a team that are, but I brought all the engineering around provenance to the business.
Okay, awesome.
And when I knew that I was trading this thing, it was not like I'm not doing this to exchange it with Ethereum or Bitcoin or Stellar. No interest.
No.
You go on, you sign up. First stage of sign up, you can see the exchange.
Okay, I'll bring this up.
You can't do anything yet. You can't do anything yet until you verify yourself. Once you verify yourself, you'll be asked, deposit some money if you want. You don't have to. Deposit some money. Once you've deposited some money, it's very simple. You hit buy.
So here, you literally, they can see the website now. You literally hit start investing and you register.
Yep. And you register. Cool. For those listening, we're actually looking at a live example of betacarbon.com, so you can watch it on the video to follow along, or just go to the website. But yeah, so keep going, Rob.
Yep. So what you'll do is once you've deposited your money, the verification's real time. So it's like 10 seconds. Once you put your details in, you don't have to send your license in. You're just putting license details into our third-party verifier, which is industry best Frankie 1. Right?
Okay.
So then we know who you are as a customer. You've done your verification. You can now trade. Now, what you do is you can do Pay ID, put money in directly immediately, or you can do BSB. We'll do credit cards in time, but we haven't gone there yet.
Okay.
The market price for carbon today, if I'd be really interested, can you click on www.accus.com.au for me? And I just want to show your viewers where the market is.
.au?
Yep. So there's no market, right? Zero. There's nothing there, right? But that's because those 60 people who trade it have decided they don't want to trade today. Hasn't moved where it was yesterday.
So this is so early. I mean, we used the term early a lot in the Web3 space, but this is like freaking early. I mean,
so
awesome.
I create a price all day long. So my price today, I'll log in on my phone. I'll tell you what the buy and sell price is, right? Just to give you a sense of how good the liquidity is that is in the system. So it's far better than the institutional market to start with. It's a portfolio of notionally backed credits. The methodologies are really spread across, all sorts of different ways to create that carbon. I just want to get the right price up. I don't want to be. I can show you here. So I've got like 104 grand in there, and I've got 905,000 carbon tokens. So that's equal to 905 tons.
Yep.
And so you've got a buy and a sell button. Buy and sell, very simple. So if I invest and I should be really doing this on the computer, I'm sorry. So if I put $100 in and I hit invest, and I'll get a confirmation ticket, and then I'll get an email telling me it's done. Now that will update my wallet. I'll go back.
Easy.
Now I've got 908,000.
Oh, wow. And so, and like you said, people that are doing that, they're not selling it tomorrow. So if there's a day of trading where it's zero, it's because everyone's holding on to it.
No one's really selling.
Wow.
Interesting.
By the way,
I should just, our buy price is 3,761. So it's 3.76 cents. And our sell price is 3,523. So you can buy it at 3.77, sell it at 3.5.
And by the way, me and Ed, I'm surprised Ed hasn't said this before me.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
First time that I've met Guy, and Guy, we're not getting paid to do this. So we're literally figuring this out, and as this is happening. So yeah, this is not a paid thing. No. Come on.
Definitely not a paid thing, and also definitely not financial advice. Do your own research.
No.
This is just our opinions, but it's something we're interested in.
Not financial advice, and to be clear, you need to understand what you're doing. Yeah,
that's Ed and my show. We literally give people the tools and expose positively different genres and blockchain and crypto technology and tokens for people to do their own research. But I mean, honestly, Guy can tell, but he's already got Ed and I interested in investing in this stuff. But it's off our own accord, because we're going to go off after this show. We're going to go and do more research and figure out when the best time to hop in and hop out is on our own.
Yeah, and there's some really good assets on the website as well. So we've got third-party people, a guy named Dr. Tom Schroeder. He talks you through what is the Australian carbon market. There's other stuff. You can also go into the security section. You can go and look at the custodial report to see what credits are actually in there. You can then click on it and it'll take you to the Clean Energy Regulator's website to find out all the blurb around that project. It is a really good website. Someone who's been in the web development game for 20 years, I know a good website when I say one, and it flows well. It's just there you go. A good job, whoever did it.
What is an Australian carbon token? Go on here and do some research before you do anything, before you want to do anything. Wow.
Cool. Very, very cool. So, look, I know we've only scratched the scratch of this, and you probably spend a lot more time digging deeper with certain audiences that you're talking to. As you can tell, Rob and I are complete novices in the space, but it's where it starts, isn't it? Grassroots, where we're learning, we're trying to expose the people who watch our show or listen to our show. So hopefully, you never know where it leads.
People that watch our show watch Ed and I learning things live.
So we've got one other product which I'd love to sort of just plug.
Go for it.
We're not just an investment. We've got two key products. The other one, which is carbon solutions for merchants and brands. And you all would have felt this. You would have got the opportunity to go on a flight and offset it. Yeah?
Yeah.
They're asking you for another couple of bucks, and you're like,
when
really?
you book your airline ticket, would you like to spend another $10 on offsetting that?
And that's rubbish.
Exhaust coming out of the jet engine.
It leaves you a bad taste in your mouth. You don't know where the credits are going. You're effectively just giving the airline money in their balance sheet. So they buy
extra $10. They're not giving you a carbon token back or anything like.
Good point.
what we've done is we've refigured what that looks like. So we're live now with some really great brands, MJ Bale, Academy brand, a whole swathe more under integration at the moment. And the concept is at the end of your sale, the merchant's going to pay to buy climate projects, the same ones that would basically be around in the token. And you don't have to pay, but you get to choose which one that merchant's going to use, right? So you get to interact, you feel good about your purchase. We're all told to feel guilty for buying stuff now. It's not the way it should be. It should still be a good experience, but just make sure your dollar goes to the right merchants.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so that's going to be integrated in the sort of payment system.
That's on Shopify, Magento.
Okay,
all the
cool
methodologies. And you know what's really pleasing is the brands are pretty willing to pay, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's not your Wesfarmers, your Woolworths. You know, they're gonna use the excuse of measurement ad nauseum, right? Until the very moment they're forced in. But it's the punters who are actually integrating. They care about the reviews that they get from their customers. They are willing to pay, which is really pleasing. And I think I just want to leave you with that.
No, that's great.
Is willing.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Well, I've learnt a lot, and say I'm just scratching the scratch. So I think it's been awesome. Rob, any last questions before?
I just want to ACCU, go back to this page, right? I just want to mark this. This is like just before Christmas in 2022. So is the price now like, what is it, like 30, 34 bucks or something?
Yeah, it's like the token's got an average price of about $35.
Okay, so in a year's time, we're going to have Guy back on the show, and we're going to look at what the price is. And we're not just talking about price here, but I'm
interested in the size of the market, right?
How far is it? Yeah.
Have we made a difference? Have we got more farmers to move towards different types of farming practices? Have we got more Indigenous mobs involved in this? Because they can be the hero to this story, right? They were custodians of this land for
absolutely
thousands of millennia. And how can we not allow them to actually take ownership of this? And that's why Indigenous carbon credits trade at a huge premium to the non-Indigenous ones.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, cool. That's fantastic. And as it should be. Well,
it was great having you on, Guy.
I've got lots of digging and thinking to do, but you've been getting good exposure in the media and in the market, deservedly so. Is that a word? I can't even speak now. Deservedly is what I meant to say. And all the awards. It's fantastic. So thanks for coming on, Guy.
My pleasure, and have a great Christmas and holiday.
You too. And for those who want to, again, have a look, we'll put the link in the show notes. Beta, B-E-T-A, carbon, CARBON.com. Go to the website, check them out. Also, while you're there, if you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify or somewhere, please like and subscribe to the channel so you can get more great content from awesome people like Guy. And we wish you all the best of fortune with this endeavour. It's well done. It's a big job, but a worthy job. And I think Rob and I are going to be involved in it in some way, shape or form, speaking for myself, really. But I can tell by looking at Rob's eyes, he's going, this is very, very, very cool.
I want you to close the show so I can go and do more research.
Yeah, okay. I'll shut up. I'll stop talking now and let Guy go back to doing his work. Thanks, mate, for coming on.
Stay safe, everyone. And
we'll catch you all on the next episode. Yeah. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.